Everybody, that's Jet. Welcome, Jet. Come on in.
My smart session's going to focus predominantly on the back end. So getting the product to Amazon, and predominantly when I visited China and then some of the outcomes that came from that. So focusing on supplier product inspections, payments, and speed to market. So the trip to Yiwu, so I spent about a week in Yiwu and then about a week in Shenzhen. And the experience that I found from Yiwu was that you found more products that were mature growth stage. So you're not going to get the early adoption products typically there. The suppliers are slightly more later stage. They're still growth products, but more later in the cycle. And the key thing to look at there is trying to find out the factories versus the traders. Because it's really the factories that you want to work with to get the low cost but more bespoke system and build a rapport and relationship. And it was a great opportunity just to get speed to market in terms of products. So seeing what niches you are, seeing what related products they are, getting a cost idea of bundling, bonuses, and greater visibility on that. So the case example for me and the learning point was actually gauging how much of a margin my sourcing agent is taking. Which is a way of doing business, it's the same in India as well, but it's how to actually mitigate that, and that's a work in progress, but I've stopped it from spiraling upwards in terms of as a release products. Then actually seeing the existing factories, so looking at quality control, scalability, actually leveraging their actual relationships. So there are two case examples there. One supplier that I've been working with over a year I actually quit. Because when I actually went to the premises, 2 of their floors were just focused on selling. So just call centers. So I don't really want to build a relationship with the supplier that's focused on selling. So they had minimal actual product creation, so it was really label and packaging. So then I actually went with a factory, and at the same time the boss didn't turn up either. So that shows you the etiquette. And then I actually went with a factory where it was much more, the boss was there was amenable and in terms of product requirements and everything. And the other factory was actually subcontracting, which then explained variability in batch runs as well on quality. And then the second learning point was actually the other supplier actually opened me up to his network. And typically the factories are in network hubs, so you can then gather quite quickly other related products in that area. They can vouch for you, so you straight away you've got a stronger bargaining power, negotiation power, and it's just so much easier and quicker. So that was the actual expert. So then the processes that I have today, so every batch run I try and do a quality inspection. I think that's critical, so before it leaves China. There's only 5% exception, and that's really where it's been at peak times. And there's been cases, so if it's a major deficiency, that stock doesn't leave. But if it's a minor deficiency, what I tend to do is just open up another parent-child relationship so that ACID is stored, and then I can discount it, etc., run out that stock and then close that listing down. Also, if there's too many negative reviews, I can remove that ACID, so it doesn't impact the parent relationship where the shared stars are. The second thing is that if you don't really check, factories are inclined to cut corners. I mean, they work on a profit basis, so it stamps that out as well, so it becomes a deterrent. I'm now on one of the products that I've got, it's slightly mechanical, so I'm trying to build in actually a refund reimbursement mechanism for that. I think the other area then is speed, so I've got a person that takes the photos locally in China. He's an Aussie that lives in China, married to a Chinese person, so they do various services, but basically it gives me speed to access. So typically it takes from 3 to 7 days depending on his calendar availability and the studio quality pictures, and it's at a local price. He understands what you're looking for, his experience, he speaks the same language, he does inspections and sample consolidation. So that gives me speed on that. In terms of payments process, so I use TransferWise, so I'm similar setup, so I've got a UK bank account, but TransferWise give me the ability to transfer at a pound rate, but on the spot rate, my Chinese currency now is 1.48%, and it's the actual spot rate as well. So on some payers, they actually quote a spot rate, but it's not actually when you look at the end-to-end. So 1.28% on the end rate, and for US, it's 0.48% on the spot rate, and the money can be in there within 2 hours. So they just need a Union Pay card, Bank of China, and preferably business is preferred, but if not, they can get a personal, but you just have to do lump sum payments and build it up. Next slide then, so this is the guy that I use, and he's given us a slight discount off his already low price, so you've got some details there. If you quote Catalyst 88, he was geared up to actually provide that, but he provides various services. I use him predominantly for actual studio style quality photography. If I want lifestyle images, then I'll use someone in the US, but for the 7 or 8, standard white image backgrounds, he's really good for that. He does also sample inspections, product inspections, and he's a good guy to work with if you need someone on that. I pay $75 per inspection, and it's a local person used from my sourcing agent. So if you've got a sourcing agent, they can actually find that. The reports are actually ITL standard, so it's very detailed and good quality. And it's $75 a batch run, but I insist on inspection. But this guy's a good alternative if you need that. I think that's about it, really.
Okay, good. That's a lot of packed info. Who's got questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's really to yourself and also Steve as well. It's just regarding something I heard, I think it was somebody mentioned a while back, and it's to do with the exchange rate, how it can differ between the UN and also the dollar. When you're negotiating your terms, how do you mitigate that? Because sometimes the exchange
Yeah, so early off when I started off, I had supplies at dollar rate. And actually at that time, it was working in my favour, the currency movements. I mean, lately it's worked the other way, right? It's worked in China's favour. But no, I switched from that a long time. If you're paying in dollar rates, typically I think you're paying too much. You need to be paying in yen. Renminbi.
You want RMB,
Yeah.
So I would just say, in general, you should index when you agree to a price what the exchange rate is at the time, and 5% shifts. So I pay in RMB typically too, and I'll use Veeam to do free wires. Melissa can get you a link to Veeam where there's a special rate we have organized. I think the other pay thing is a good one too. We have another, anyway. To answer your question, I try to index it at the time you strike the deal. If you say this is $1, it's $1 today, but if the dollar changes in a significant way, currency-wise, nothing else changes, I will shift only at the point of 5% either direction. Fair is fair. And I guarantee you, I had this conversation about a year ago when the RMB had dropped by 13% against the dollar. Nobody's prices dropped by 13% if you didn't know what you were looking for. And as soon as you go, hey, by the way, currency dropped, they'll go, oh, raw materials, labor, they'll have a whole list of reasons why they can't lower the cost. So, any other questions for Jet, and then I'll cap off and ham and egg a little on China.
Sorry, just to pick up on that, so another way I've mitigated price increases is I've actually given back orders to my supplier when there's downtime. So he's building up stock when he's still got people, so he's utilising that labour, so it's a quid quo pro, and in that, he knows not to increase the prices as well.
Very clever. Hang on, Nicole's, I saw her finger up timidly.
With regards to meeting the factory, and so you go to a sourcing agent in China and finding out, see, they make money. For us, I think she makes it on the exchange rate. She doesn't want us to speak to them directly, for one supplier in China. So you met the factory with her or him?
Yeah, so sorry, in each case, by the way, these people don't speak English. Yes. So I went with a group, similar to like Steve, so I had a translator there, which was good to Tyrone was at that event as well, and the translator was a student, which I liked. Because I was seeing some other people that were buying for Africa and they were using agents and they were making the cut. The translators or students, so they didn't have that. I've kept her subsequent details, but my current agent, typically I think the going rate, Steve will have more experience, but I'm finding it's about 8% you would expect to give as a margin.
We can talk about this in more detail. In fact, if anybody wants to know about China, let's put China on the wall, because and I'll tell you one thing, if you want to learn what I've learned in the last 15 years, go read the book Poorly Made in China. And I'm not even joking, Poorly Made in China, written by Paul Midler. It's 15 years of my pain in that book. It wasn't based on me, but it just happens to be real. And there's a lot to that onion, and I don't want to unpeel the whole thing right now. Matt, I saw your hand.
Any US dollars would you recommend looking to
Yes.
switch?
So one, index your price based on today, both in dollars and the currency rate. So that gets you your RMB price, and pay in RMB. And again, how many of you are paying wire fees? Okay, how are you not paying wire fees? Let me ask you that.
I usually do it through exchange, so like say
Okay, so you're paying the
euros
exchange.
to dollars,
Yeah, so
but still a little bit.
yeah, so that every time you make those moves, there's a change. The key with Veeam or even TransferWise is they're trying to say you get to pay a better negotiated spot rate. And again, with Veeam and even with OFX, we're going to have really aggressive, lower negotiated rates that allow you to pay your index rate and pay less on the there's less breakage on the currency exchange. But pay in RMB is my advice. Some guys want to get dollars out. They want you to pay in Hong Kong to their own personal account. You may have to fight them a little bit on it, but it doesn't matter if you index the price, send in whatever currency you end on. But if you don't track the RMB, then I think you're at risk. I saw another hand over here. Was it Paul? Yeah. No, it was Anthony.
Yeah, it's not about China. You mentioned when you had a bad batch, that I just want to check I've got this right. You've got a good listing, got loads of reviews, you get a bad batch, so you create a child ASIN, sell the bad batch on the child list. Is that your recommendation?
Yeah, so in this particular case, it was actually a zip issue.
Yeah.
But it was at Christmas, so I needed that stock to go. So one of the zips wasn't technically right, so it was a minor issue. Well, one that I had to live with basically, otherwise I would have lost Christmas on that colour. And so then in that case, I just created a separate child ASIN and then cleared that stock, and then also I know it's cleared.
Yeah.
Because if you
So
use the
you know
existing
you've got
one, you're going to
really
merge it
good
with, yeah.
units on your own.
And typically when I'm doing test runs in terms of more thinking about packaging, I sometimes do that.
Yeah.
The flip side, so the positive is that you can control it.
Yeah.
The negative is it plays havoc with your keyword ranking, because you have to re-rank.
Oh, okay.
But if you've got traffic going to like a predominant color, usually you can get that up within about 10 days or so.
But you get to preserve the
Yeah,
good listings.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right, that's really good.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you again. Everybody give it up for Jet. Thank you.